Bill.
Hi.
Hi, man. How are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. That's a cool T-shirt, man.
Oh yeah, it is. It's my friend has a pasta company in Buenos Aires.
Oh.
And this is his logo. I just like it.
Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering, how do they regulate the rights for the Ramones logo?
Special Latin process they go through.
How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
How's Sarajevo treating you?
So far, so good. It's always when I come here, it's very stimulating. This is just a very deep city, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always feel it.
Yeah, but you've been coming here for a long time now.
Yeah,
long time. I don't know how many people know that. I know that people from the industry, and I think music industry know this, but I don't know how many like regular folks know it.
Right.
I don't know how many Faith No More fans actually know.
They don't know. I mean, yeah. I don't even know if my band knows. Seriously. I never really talked about it so much with them.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
How come?
Sometimes I did. A long time ago, when I came here, I would talk about it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't go there.
Really?
Yeah, it's a different kind of relationship we have.
Okay, yeah. Balkan for you is like Italy for Mike, right?
That'd be a good comparison. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us try to dive right into it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to give shout out to Jadranka who introduced us. Mm-hmm. We met first time like 11 years ago or something.
Yes, the Exit Festival.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't remember which year was it. Do you remember? 2009, 2010.
It might be 2009. It's possible. That was the first year when we got back together and we were touring again, and that was our first tour. So I think that was the time, 2009.
2000. That's 13 years ago then.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And Jadranka introduced me, and we had a really fruitful conversation. Mm-hmm. It lasted for hours, and I was left in awe with all the stories you told me. And that was the first time she actually introduced me to your love for the Balkans. Uh-huh. And then when you started telling the story, and then both of you started exchanging the memories, the kind of conversation you had. And it was some of the most fascinating stuff came up to the surface. And 13 years later, I'm really hoping to broadcast this story.
Yeah, sure.
The story of yours.
Totally.
Yeah. So when was the first time you came to this region?
The first time. Well, we came. I think it was with Guns N' Roses in 1992 in Budapest, right?
Okay.
And there was no other gigs happening anywhere in the region then. So people came from all over the place. I remember Hungary was our first, probably what you would call Eastern Europe gig.
Yeah.
And the bus parked outside on the street in Budapest. And you sleep on the bus. And I woke up in the morning.
Tour bus.
The tour bus.
Yeah.
And I just went out to look for coffee. And I see the Soundgarden guys kind of walking around. And there was this energy in Budapest that was very different than anything I felt in Europe. It just felt, now it feels normal, but then it was very different. And I met these kids from Bulgaria who had taken the bus up. They took a 12-hour bus to come to the gig, and I realized people were coming from everywhere to this gig because this was the biggest gig happening within 2,000 kilometers, right? So it was even though it was in Hungary, it was like kind of the whole region I got introduced to, and there were buses of kids coming from Serbia, for example, and they were bringing rakia with them, and that's where I discovered rakia. And the same time, 1992, it's like nobody really knew like how society was going to function because there was such a different change, especially in Hungary, and where the street names were changing, and the police, we went up, some guy took us up to the castle, and we were smoking a joint, and I'm like, can you do that here? And he goes, the police don't know what it is. Okay. They didn't know. We could do anything, So that, to me, that was the kind of, I wouldn't say it's freedom exactly, but because nobody had money, but it was some kind of freedom that we didn't have, right? And I wanted to go see more. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to go to the places where we couldn't get the gigs, you know?
Yeah. So how did you? Who was the first people that you made contact with, and when was the first time you came back after that?
So, well, the first time we did another gig later in Ljubljana.
Okay.
And that was another one where people came from all over. And that's when the first war was happening here. But we were getting like Serbian people, we were getting Croatian people.
What was what time?
92, 93.
Yeah, around the same time.
Yeah. And we were in like Portoroz, and we had like some days off. So me and my bass roadie, we rented motorcycles and we drove to Rijeka and drove all we were in Rijeka and we decided, look at that mountain over there. Let's drive over this mountain and see what's on the other side. We just started driving. Yeah. And the war was going on, but we were kind of far from where that was. But it was still different, you know, a lot of checkpoints and police and stuff. And I met a bunch of people in Ljubljana because people were coming from everywhere. There was a lot of Serbian people there. There were, you know, escaping the army and stuff like that. It was a lot of underground gigs. And also Jadranka was the first person I met in Budapest. So I did an interview with her, and she gave me her number if you ever come, you know, to Belgrade. And so I always was thinking, you know, I'm going to come down there someday. I want to check it out.
Yeah, that's such a typical American thing, you know. I see this mountain, let's go straight there. No, because it's
absolutely.
Because it's a kind of a different psychological constitution of people, because it's such a vast space in the States.
Exactly.
And the culture of traveling through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an American value. Absolutely.
Yeah, completely. And when I went to the States for the first time, we kind of rented a car, and we went through like 25 different states.
So
and it was a thing, you know, go from motel to motel, sleep for one night, meet the people. Yeah. You see something interesting over there, go over there without kind of, you know, traveling without borders in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, borderless travel. Let's say it's something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, with complete freedom of whatever is there. It's completely, I don't know, safe or without premonition, without thinking about it, I think. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, actually, because yes, the road trip, right?
Yeah.
In America, you have this thing that we do. It's called a road trip, where you just go on an adventure. Like, I want to drive here, drive for 10 hours and see what's there. Yeah.
And in Europe, it's completely different, because so many different countries, so many different languages, so many different cultures.
Yeah.
The people differ from village to village.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what's gonna be behind the corner. And, you know, with the troubled history we have, it's kind of you first ask around before you go somewhere. we
don't have that problem so much, because we don't really have a long history. We're so young.
Yeah.
Like, even if our families come from places, like my father's side comes from Hungary, you know, but when they come to America in the older generation, they didn't want to tell their kids about this. They want to start them fresh. You're just American now, you know.
It
doesn't matter where you came. Yeah.
It makes sense. And just for the reference for the people, because it happened. How old were you back then?
When we did this, when we played in Budapest?
92, 92.
Ooh, 28 years old, 29.
That's a factor too.
Yeah.
But for the reference, for the people in the region and for the younger generation, for example, Jadranka was one of the biggest influences in my music tastes when I was a young kid, because, you know, there was not many sources to find out about new music.
Right.
So the few of them that we had, we cherished them a lot.
Right.
And at the time, in the early 90s, there was like a lot of gangster rap, a lot of hip hop, a lot of alternative local music, so on and so forth. But it was kind of difficult to find about metal music, about heavier music. And Jadranka was one of few. I think she was actually the only VJ at the time.
Wow.
She had like a weekly list or an hour list that she would present us with heavier music, mostly metal music and alternative heavy music. And we called her, you know, Heavy Jadranka. Yes, you know, it was like a heavy hour that we had every Wednesday. I think it was in between 11 a.m. and noon. And she was kind of, you know, the go-to person when it comes to the metal music in Serbia at the time. I want to say, yeah. So when you met Jadranka in the Budapest, she gave you contact, and
she did, and then we came and we played there again. I think, by ourselves around 1993. After the Slovenian gig, we went back to Budapest, and she came to the gig again. And, so I knew her then, right? It's my second time. And I was asking her about Serbia, what's Belgrade like, because everybody was telling me Belgrade's like the New York City of the Balkans. You have to go there, So around this time, I was thinking about going there. And there was another place I was really curious about was Albania, because this was the black hole of Europe. And I'm being very American. So when I'm talking to you, I'm not saying what I did was smart. I'm just saying from my perspective, it was the way for me to learn something, right? We grew up with this thing of communism in America, where when there was an Iron Curtain, nobody really told us what was on the other side, And I always wondered what was over there and what it was like. And nobody could tell me. Nobody goes there. Maybe somebody would go to East Germany and Berlin and tell me, oh, yeah, they only had one kind of shoe in the store, shit like that. But I didn't know. And so when the wall came down and I was I had some money, right? Band was kind of successful. And it's kind of like the world was open. They knew what my music was. So I kind of had an open book. It was for me to learn, It was a real opportunity, right? And so it's like, I want to go there. I want to go there. Also at the Guns N' Roses show, because you do press and media, the Hungarian people there, and you have to do all these interviews before you go on stage. And there was two guys that were dressed like, one looked like she was from like 1880s, and another one, he looked like a clown. He had like red, white, and blue shoes, and like his hair was like this, and he had a tie. And I'm like, who are those people, right? And they're like, we're from television something in Skopje. And I'm like, I want to go there. So I want to go to Macedonia. I want to go to Serbia. I want to go to Albania, especially Albania, because nobody knew anything. They couldn't tell me anything about Albania, right?
Yeah.
So meanwhile in Germany, the wall came down, and so everybody had these Trabants, right? Nobody wants these shitty East German cars, right? Nobody wants them.
Legendary Trabant.
Legendary Trabant. So I did some radio interview in Berlin, and I was like, I want to buy a Trabant, and I want to do the tour, because you could get them for like 100 Deutschmarks, and so I was doing this interview, like, anybody have a Trabant they want to sell? I want to buy one. And somebody called in the station taking questions, and this guy's like, come outside. And so we went outside.
You were in Berlin, right?
In Berlin.
Yeah.
And this guy's like, here's your keys. Here's your registration. This is your car. And it was like, shit, he just gave me his car. He didn't want it. So like, shit, amazing. So I did the whole Guns N' Roses tour in the Trabant. Like, I had a car,
Yeah. So it was like this. You had a tour bus.
Yeah, but I didn't use the tour bus. Yeah.
But you didn't use the tour bus.
No.
So you were alone in the car?
So I would take a different band member every
stop.
Yeah.
Every stop. So what was their reaction to it?
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was fun, and
they were like, "You got the fucking Trabant."
Yeah.
Like, what the
we didn't even know. He gave me the car. He didn't tell me how to start it, how to do the gasoline. He didn't tell me anything. So it took maybe an hour to figure out how to even make the car start.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
We didn't. I have pictures of it actually.
Oh yeah.
And Matt Cameron was there from Soundgarden. And we were like, have the hood open, and we were like trying to push the car. But then once it was starting, it was like, well, let's go.
So what was the first impression when you started driving the car?
It's like it's really light, really dangerous.
To put it lightly.
Super dangerous. Really hard to shift the gears, and on the Autobahn was like insane, because you can only go like maybe 80 kilometers per hour maximum.
Yeah.
You're going, but if there's like a little road work and you have to put on the brakes, the whole car goes like this. So, and then meanwhile, there's cars like these Audis, just going by, or like I look at my rearview mirror and there's just two big lights up my ass, get the fuck out of the way, and I was just driving as fast as I can. So anyway, but the short part of this is I got this car, and there's a woman from the record company. She said, you can keep it at my house in Hamburg, and when you come back, you can use it when you come back. And I was like, I want to drive this to Albania. That's what I'm going to do, from Berlin to Albania.
But that was a very specific year, very specific
95, 96.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Because for people who don't know, it wasn't just a turmoil in former Yugoslavian countries. There was also a turmoil in Albania at the time.
No, so it was before the turmoil in Albania.
Before the turmoil.
This was before that.
Yeah, it was in 97, I think, yeah?
That was in 97. So it was 1 year before that. Yeah. So we got this car. My friend Eric came out, and we got to Berlin, stayed over at my friend's house, and the next day we just started driving.
From Berlin?
From Berlin.
To Albania.
Yeah.
That's how long is that? Can somebody Google, please, the kilometers? I think it's in thousands, man, in Trabant. What's the distance from? But you have to put via Belgrade. You know, I don't know if it's the shortest route, but. You know.
But we went through the mountains to Ohrid and all this, right?
Yeah.
And then we went through Pogradec and then down Elbasan to Tirana, and then up into Montenegro. And
a normal car, it's 21 hours.
Not hours,
Yeah.
kilometers.
1,800.
Yeah. Okay,
1,800.
2,000, almost 2,000 kilometers, man.
So
in Trabant.
let me tell you about this car.
80
what I
kilometers
realized,
an hour.
This car is so shitty, right, that it uses so much gas. I realized at the end how much money I spent to put gas in this shitty car. I could have rented a Mercedes. Seriously, it used so much fuel. It maybe got like, for a liter, it probably got like 5 kilometers or something. Nothing more than that.
That's fucking insane, man.
I didn't know that. I didn't know anything, right?
Yeah, but then again, you wouldn't be telling this story.
No.
Otherwise, yeah.
So what happened? So we drove. So we started in Bratislava. Was the first place. We went to Prague first. Then went to Bratislava. Stayed over, and we met these girls in this cheap hotel we were staying in that were from Split.
Okay.
And we went and had some drinks, and we just cut their numbers and stayed in touch. Like, well, maybe we'll see you when we're coming around the other end. So then we went through Hungary, and we got to Serbia, and I didn't have any insurance for this car. I didn't have any registration for this car. I just had a car, and I was just driving a car.
And you had
I was just an idiot.
Yeah, and who was in the car with you?
Me and my friend Eric, and our clothes or whatever. And so we got to the Serbian border, and we didn't realize like there was an embargo on Serbia, and it was really going through hard times, and it was very hostile when we got to the border. Like, they looked at our car. They were, who do you know in Serbia? And I showed them Jadranka's phone number, I think. And I think they called her. But whatever, they're like some American guys trying to come here, and they don't have any like insurance. They don't have any papers, no visa. Somehow I paid some money, and then they just let us go in. And so
we are very familiar with that tradition.
Yeah. Like magic. It was like magic.
But you can imagine the surprise on their faces. Some bunch of 2 American dudes in a Trabant coming from Berlin in the middle of this fucking situation.
And that was a shitty car even for Serbia or anywhere. They were like...
But it was a pretty common car in Serbia, though.
Maybe.
Even if it's a shit car, it's a pretty common car.
Okay.
Trabant,
so it's not unusual.
Trabant, Warburg, and Tristach, right? Yeah. Those 3 were very common when I was a kid, around that time. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I noticed was it was very dark, and we were on that road and there was no cars. There was nobody driving. And
what time? You thought 95?
Yeah, 96, maybe
96.
around January, February.
You know why? Because of the embargo, because of the sanctions and everything, there was no gas.
That makes sense.
You couldn't...
Exactly. Actually, you're right. Because they were selling gas in bottles. They look like rakia.
Yeah. It was smuggled. It was smuggled
Right?
bottles from Romania.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I got some of this gas. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a pretty shitty gas, too.
Shitty gas. But it was a shitty car. The car loved it.
Yeah. Just perfect for it.
It was like... Yeah, mother's milk.
Yeah, match made in heaven, right? So there was nobody driving in the streets, right?
Yeah, so nobody on the streets. And the first we went maybe like 2 kilometers, police checkpoint. And we were like, whoa, like just in the middle of the road. And they were just like up our ass. Do you have chocolates? Do you have this? Do you have cigarettes? And we're like, no, we don't have any of this.
Smuggling.
And they went through all of our bags, and then they were like, okay, go ahead. Fine. Wow, that was strange. 10 more minutes, another police checkpoint. We went through so many police checkpoints. I don't know, maybe at least 5 on the way to Belgrade. And they were all, your tail light, it's not working, Okay, here you go,
Yeah.
And so by the time we got to Belgrade, I think we crossed the border like 8 o'clock. We got to...
Which border was it? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, shit. I mean...
From what country?
Subotica? Yeah, from Hungary.
From Hungary, yeah. Okay, yeah. Horgosh, probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Belgrade, so we just drove to the train station. Like, that's the center, right? Went there, we're sitting there, and everything's just kind of like, this is kind of like tension in the air. People weren't really outside, and so I walked down the street to this hotel, and I asked if I could use their telephone, and just called the drunk guy. She's like, hey, Bill, what's going on? I go, I'm in Belgrade. She's like, what? And where are you staying? I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. So she came and she rescued us and she took us out for cevapi. And I knew everything was going to be okay because there was like this truck making cevapi. And it was like by the time 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's outside eating and had a beer. And I was like, this is a civilized place. Like, it's going to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long did you stay in Belgrade?
Only like 3 days or so.
Yeah. So what was the experience in those 3 days? I don't know.
It was hard times for Belgrade. It was really hard. So for me, blew my mind, actually. So we stayed in Novi Belgrade, and she, the drunk was like, it's not so safe, don't go out there without us. And we don't know. So like, okay. So we kind of stayed in the area, but I went out a couple times to buy some water, buy some beer. So Serbia had a really strong impression on me because everything was turbo folk, right?
Yeah.
But I never heard turbo folk before. So it was very exotic for me.
As usually is for foreigners.
I was like, whoa, right? Like, what the fuck? And so I went to the store, and there's all this yogurt, and burek. And like, fuck, I never had it. So it was just like, this new world opening up for me, this fascinating world.
Yeah.
And then, the politics were really hard at the time, but that also kind of made a deep impression. So we went out, we had some drinks, we did stuff like that, went to some clubs. We went to this, flea market in Novi Belgrade and just to check out.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And bought some gasoline from the guys selling it in their cars and shit like that. And,
Still in Trabant, right?
Exactly, yeah.
What was the color of Trabant? There was only one color of Trabant, right? There was like no 2 colors, like some gray.
Blue.
No, I think there was like a gray one, the kind of a olive green one, I think, and that's about it. I think of
this one had a helicopter painted on the side.
Oh,
it was
Jesus.
some weird. So I got it from some.
This was a custom
strange
one,
guy.
right?
Absolutely custom. But it kind of didn't look too cool, like in the places we were going, because it looked more kind of aggressive. And,
Helicopter is not a good
it was
omen
kind
at
of
the
punk,
time.
Yeah.
Helicopter was not a good omen at the time.
No, exactly.
In the States at the time, you had only like yogurt eating with a spoon or something like that. It wasn't like a thing that you drink.
No, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was like a different...
And very sour yogurt,
Yeah,
I mean, I liked it, but it just was different. It was a different thing.
Yeah, and I want to know the first impression from a music point of view when you heard the turbo folk. What was like?
When I first heard it, I liked it. Confession.
Yeah.
Because it was something outside. I mean, you have to imagine America is just folk influenced, American folk. I hate it. I hate it. I like a lot of blues, but that's where it stops right there.
Yeah.
And so this was the exact opposite of that. So for me, it was refreshing. However, I learned. The more I came here, I learned,
Yeah.
But it was definitely, I mean, hey, there's all this Ottoman influences, right? So I'm in Europe with this Ottoman influence. I never saw this combination for the first time.
Yeah, the best thing, the best and the most exotic thing about Belgrade that people who are born and raised there, it often slips out of their minds is like Belgrade was just in the middle of two huge empires. There was like an Austro-Hungarian empire that was from the new Belgrade side.
Right.
And you cross the bridge, you're on the Turkish Ottoman Empire.
Right.
So it's two completely different cultures. Yeah, it's like a bridge in between East and West. And both Eastern and Western influences are equally strong. And the politics and the propaganda and everything else kind of try to swing it one way or the other, right? So we kind of have this. In modern times, we kind of have this one-sided opinion about things, heavily polarized.
Or the tension between the two.
Yeah, the tension between the two. But nobody actually celebrates the melting pot that it actually is.
I see.
And just embrace both of those worlds together.
Right.
And capitalize on it. Because you have the heritage.
It's very
of
unique,
things.
actually. Yeah. It's an asset. I think it's an asset.
It's an asset. We have two types of letters completely equal. Cyrillic and Latin letters, completely equal.
Right.
So for example, when I was sitting with a friend from Zagreb, I was reading a book. He told me, read one sentence. I have read one sentence. He said, close the book. I closed the book. And he asked me, was it the Cyrillic letters or Latin letters? And I had no idea.
Interesting.
I had no idea. It was completely the same to me, because we were brought up with the same,
Interesting.
And then, please continue.
Oh, where did we go? We got on the motorway to Niš, which was the only motorway on the whole trip that we had. And
up until recently, it was the only motorway, I think.
But this motorway sucked and also just checkpoints. But they charged me because I was a foreigner, something like 100 Deutschmarks to do this motorway to Niš. It was so fucking expensive. I fuck. That's like a big part of my money for the trip, boom, just on the motorway.
And people don't know, 100 Deutschmarks at the time was a big money. It was big money.
How could people pay that? Yeah.
No.
I know. Well, but for domestic, for people in Yugoslavia, they didn't have to pay that. They had a separate price.
Yeah.
It was just because my car had foreign plates.
No, they were just hustling you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they were just hustling you.
It's hard to find that out now. Yeah.
It was.
I really believe them.
No.
Yeah.
They're just outright lying, man. It was a complete lie. It's a complete bullshit. There's no tax like that because you're foreign or anything else, man. 100 Deutschmarks from Belgrade to Niš. Taxi wouldn't cost that much.
We were children. We were just babies, at the mercy. Most people treated us and respected that. Sometimes they didn't,
Yeah,
that's what happens. Yeah.
That's what happens wherever you go, man.
Exactly.
And then?
And so we went.
Did you stop in Niš?
No, we didn't. We kept going into Kosovo. And what time did we? No, because Niš was at the night. There was something between Kosovo and Niš, but I can't remember where we stopped. But because Kosovo was the next day.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I don't know. Prokuplje, Kuršumlija, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But a bunch of places in between.
Yeah, something. So, I just don't remember. It's a blank. But because we got into Kosovo around Pristina around afternoon.
Okay.
And that, I heard there was, a little bit of tension there.
Wherever you go, there's tension, man.
Yeah, it was like, it's dangerous down there. I was like, okay, I want to see. Also, I grew up in LA. When I was as a kid in school, I worked for a pharmacy delivery for people on medical government assistance. So I went to very South Central LA. I worked very dangerous neighborhoods, and I was a white kid that nothing ever happened to me, right? So I felt like, well, everybody says something's bad. I want to see how bad it is, So I said, Kosovo, be careful. And it was pretty tense. It surprised me.
Meaning?
I got a little scared. Well, we were driving on a road, and we came around this bend, and we knew we were in Kosovo because there's two tanks on the side of the road just pointed towards the road. And, the guys coming out, this time they were armed, and they just came out of the road pull over, And they got they were super aggressive. They had guns out, and they were open the car, get your bags, shake my bags all over the street, just looking through all my things. And it was
no respect,
no respect, and what the fuck, And that was when I got a little afraid, and
What about Eric, man?
Eric was cooler than me. Well, there's one thing that saved us. It could have been worse, but they asked passport, passport. And I'm kind of my brain works in a very strange way. Like, I never remember. I always put my passport in a different pocket. And I never remember which one I put it in. So every time there's a checkpoint and they ask for passports, I'm always like, it's not in here, it's not in here, my jacket looking here. And the guys are like, fuck, like, go,
Yeah.
And Eric's like, oh, fuck, the passport again. Like, so Eric was always like, oh, God, don't ask for the passport because Bill has to find it again. And it takes like 5 minutes to getting mad. So Eric was pretty cool. Eric was actually more cool than me. I was a little kind of freaked out. And we got into Pristina. And it was like, all I can think of the way to describe it was like boiling water, like a pressure cooker, I didn't know the politics. I didn't really know the history. And all I knew was what I was feeling when I was there. And it was really fucking tense. And everybody was tense. Everybody walking down the street were like wired up. And they were looking in our car. And we were definitely not from there. We were different. And I was like, it felt kind of like scary to me. Like I felt very vulnerable. So we were going to stay over there in the night there. I stopped, I got something to eat, hung out for a little bit, and I was like, let's just keep going. Like, this is not, something's fucked up here. Like, and it left a really deep impression on me because nobody knew about it really. Like, definitely not California, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, where did I just go? And we went all the way to Skopje and just stayed over there. In the night, we got there around midnight. And, but, like Faith No More has a song, Pristina. And Pristina, like that experience was like a big impression on me. And that's why I wanted to use that name in the song. And, like a lot of people want to know what the politics were for doing this. And it wasn't political, it was emotional. Like, it's like the name, it's a beautiful name, actually. And when you think about it, you think of these really nice things. And my experience there was so rough. I just wanted to put that word out there, and have people want to know what it was because it was an invisible place, if that makes any sense. And I realized that I could put this name out there and people will want to know what this name meant. That was kind of what I was thinking. Yeah,
to give it some kind of recognition,
Yes,
to shine,
exactly.
To shed a light on it.
Yeah, when people don't talk about things is when the real bad shit happens,
Yeah.
And I just feel like nobody's talking about this. Somebody should at least talk about this. Yeah. Whatever they talk about, right?
Yeah. And it's always kind of a cool thing, when you're trying to point something out, and make it visible, but not in a way that, the news propaganda machine, whatever is doing it, because whenever you hear news from this part of the world, it's mostly something bad, or in the best case scenario, it's about sporting events.
Right.
If you have like a famous basketball player or something like that who comes from this place or something like that, there's not many thing in cultural sense that represents the region. In Western world.
Well, if you're talking about Western world like United States, if you have a big newspaper like the San Francisco Chronicle, there's only one page of the whole newspaper for world outside of the United States. Yeah. And most people don't read it. They keep getting smaller and smaller. Sometimes it's a half page and an ad for like a Ford car. It's really small. So you really don't hear anything. Even with the bad shit doesn't always make it there. The easy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
people are just not that interested in it. Yeah.
I guess you're far away over there. It's never going to affect them.
But it's a kind of a different thing with American mentality because I've traveled around, and met different people in different countries, and in bigger countries, especially in the Western world, they kind of don't care, but the way in the States don't care about anything outside the United States, it's a different level of not caring, not giving a fuck, It's just, in business also, if it's not American, it's not that important.
the Americans are just like this.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like this with everything. They know everything already.
Yeah.
The world comes to them, right? Yeah.
Well, it makes sense in a way because it's the most dominant country when it comes to to the culture.
It's easy to explain.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, growing up, when I said I saw that mountain, I want to drive over the mountain. I mean, a lot of it. I grew up in a nice middle-class family where, I'm very privileged actually. I had a good education. I had a pretty happy childhood, and I always knew that the world I was living in was not the world. I always knew. You see cracks, where things don't make sense, and people try to make that make sense because it's a kind of dream life that we're sold, to keep us happy, and I just always knew that there was something different,
Yeah. So you kept going from Pristina down to Skopje?
Skopje. Skopje was interesting. Skopje was like, it was interesting. It was, we got there late at night and we're just driving around looking for a place to go to. There was some club, but there was nobody in it playing loud music, and we got a beer. And we drove around. There was one little cafe in the middle called Ili Cafe. And I was like, okay, I know I can get coffee here in the morning. And there was like a bar there, and there was one person in there, and it was a transvestite. And I was like, so this place is going to be okay.
Yeah. You coming from San Francisco?
It's all right. There's some civilization here,
Yeah. You know how I imagine how I imagine if you take Yugoslavia as a big family, as a big family, and you have a family reunion, a family, I don't know, Christmas dinner or something, Macedonia is like the merriest dude in the family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Actually, it's a great place. I love it. It's like, I've been going back a lot since, and I have friends there. It's great. But so there, we left from there. I think we stayed there for 2 days. And I got a lot of good pictures before they hauled the statues, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Then...
Do you still have all those pictures?
I do. I have them on my phone, actually, a lot of them.
Oh, you're going to show me later.
Actually, I'll tell you something very interesting about... We'll get to that. I had a really strange experience last night. The great thing with digital photos, right, is like you can keep everything now on your phone, like all of your photos, right? And I'm realizing as I get older... The most important thing I have in my life is my photos, actually. I could lose anything else. But if I lost my photos, I think that would be my biggest problem because just to remember all these things for me, right? And so I have all my photos on my phone and now why am I talking about photos?
Because of...
the statues. Anyway, so the car had some weird problems with the tire. Right? It had a flat tire. We're driving towards Tetovo.
Okay.
And so we just saw this vulcanizer, stopped over, and these guys were like we came from a spaceship. These Americans in this shitty German car with a helicopter on the side, and we're like just pointing to the tire. And they were cool, They fixed the tire. They didn't charge as much. And then the guy's like bad English, where you go? And I go, Albania. And he's like, Albania, go in the daytime, drive in the daytime. No, daytime, he goes, nighttime? Shh. I was like...
For those who are just listening, he's made a sign with a finger like slitting the throat, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're like, oh, shit, okay, let's fucking go. So... We went to Ohrid, spent the night in Ohrid, watched some basketball game in a bar. There was like Phoenix Suns were playing on TV.
NBA was always popular.
Watching NBA, a bunch of old men in Ohrid. And it was, it was embargo time, so there was nobody there. It was empty. It was not like a resort. And also it was early, like February.
Yeah.
February. And so still kind of cold. And then we stayed at some old man's house. Back then, I don't know if you still do this, where you can go to the bus station and there's people say you can stay at my house. Like, do they still have this here? Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, yeah. With the sign.
Exactly.
Like,
so that's where I always stayed at those places, and
what was those experience like, man?
Cool people. Always cool people.
Always cool people,
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, always. Didn't have any bad experiences at all. And
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, totally. And but I remember that one was a big one because the lake was there, and I could see Albania on the other side, little lights. And I remember going to sleep that night. Like, tomorrow was where the adventure begins. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Nobody could tell me. Nobody had ever been there, so they couldn't tell me what to expect.
Yeah. Well, Albania had even worse reputation than us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they were for half a century under Enver Hoxha. It was like the North Korea of Europe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was like how you call it? How would you call it? Hermit Kingdom, right?
Hermit Kingdom. Exactly.
Hermit Kingdom. Yeah.
That's right. And that's the best advertisement for me that I would ever.
Yeah.
I want to see the Hermit Kingdom.
Yeah.
It was intense. It was. We drove that morning. We left early, like 7 o'clock in the morning, and we just drove to Tirana. But the roads were really bad, really slow. We drove all the way around the lake to Podgorica, and we got to Tirana. We stayed in this. There was two places. One a kind of expensive hotel, and the other one was the one that everybody stayed in. Daiti.
Okay.
And that was where there was the bar. There was it was the hotel, the communist-like hotel. And there was like one telephone that you could use, that everybody in the hotel used one phone in the lobby. And just hung out there for a couple of days, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was cool. A lot of people spoke English. I mean, there's so much information coming in, that's it's kind of hard to describe. This just everything is new. And, I'm also thinking like, okay, so this place was sealed off. Like, how did they, like, what kind of cars did they drive? How did they fix their cars? Like, what kind of coffee is this? Where does it come from? I wanted to know everything, So my whole time I was walking around just looking like, what is that like? What's this like? And, it was uneventful. Went to some clubs, met some people, but, very primitive. I mean, it was like a club was like a disco, and probably half the women there were hookers.
Yeah.
But they were very nice. They spoke good English. I had great conversations with people,
Yeah.
It was cool.
They have great coffee in Albania.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
They know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Albania for coffee, always good.
Yeah, because they were under Italian colony. They were Italian colony, so a bunch of Italian food, Italian sweets, Italian coffee, everything is awesome.
Yeah.
They have a huge culture of that, like in Italy, and especially in the south part of Albania. So you went to Tirana, you stayed there for a couple of days.
And then we went up, to Skodra, and then over to, this is fucked up. We drove through Podgorica, then through through Budva, all the way. We got to Kotor.
Okay.
But we wanted to keep going. We really wanted to go was Dubrovnik.
Okay.
Because I didn't know much about Montenegro. And so we drove all the way around the bay. This is about 11 o'clock at night. Just drove all the way around, got all the way to Herceg Novi. And there was a hard border there. It was... So, but we didn't know. We just thought we could drive and get into Croatia this way.
Yeah.
And there's this road that would go to the Croatian border. It's a long, long road, and we just drove up this long road. And at the top, there was just blocked, guards, tanks, whatever, right there. And these guys are like, stop. There's no passing. And the guy's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, we want to go to Croatia. He's like, you can't go to Croatia. You can't. We said, no, we want to go. My friend Eric actually was being very no, we're going to Croatia. We have to go to Croatia. U.S. passports. We have to go to Croatia. And the guy's just like, what the fuck? And he called up on the phone, like his general or whatever. And we see down the hill, this house, the light turns on. And then we see a car get started. And we see this car coming. And then driving up the hill, coming to us. It was the general. They woke him up out of bed, and he was pissed off. He was so pissed off. And he was like, what? Like when a Christian goes, no. And he was so angry, and we're like, okay. So we drove around, turned around, drove all the way back around the bay. And Kotor, we found a place at 2 o'clock in the morning and stayed there.
And stayed there.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
And the car was dying then. At this point.
So actually you went to a lot more than 2,000 kilometers, man.
Yeah,
That was a lot more. We just calculated from Berlin to Tirana, but not in this way and not anything after that.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was something you wanted to tell me when you went to Pristina, and you said, "I'm gonna tell you later."
Oh yeah, but that comes later.
Oh, that comes later.
Yeah.
Okay. So the car was dying at the time, and
it wasn't going in reverse anymore. And it was dying. It was really dying. So we got to Bar and we just ditched the car. We left it, took the license plates, and just left it in some parking lot. And took the train to Belgrade.
Okay, and back in Belgrade.
Yeah, well, on the way back, we got really drunk on the train, like super drunk. Like we were sitting in the car, and this guy's like opened a beer, and he's like, "Do you want something?" Okay, drank some. Then he opened another beer, drank some beer, and then when the train was stopping, kids were selling beer through the windows, so we bought some more beer. There's a 12-hour train.
Yeah.
The fucking crazy thing is, we got so fucking drunk that we passed out on the train, and the train crashed. But I didn't even know. So I woke up, and it was an empty train. It was completely empty. There was nobody on the train, and I was sleeping, and it stopped in the middle of a field. And it was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, Eric, where's Eric? And I found Eric, and all my stuff was there, and we walked outside, and there was a train station there, and there was nobody there, and except these two people, and they were waiting for somebody from Belgrade to come pick them up because they were on the train, and they gave us a ride to Belgrade to the train station there. And I called Jadranka again at 2 a.m, like, we're in Belgrade again.
So do you remember those two people? Have you stayed in contact with them?
No,
do you remember their names?
Nothing.
No. Nothing, man.
Very nice people.
Yeah, we have a joke about trains in Serbia. Like Serbian trains are so slow. When they crash, you know what happens? Nothing.
I didn't feel it. I mean, that might be true.
I'm telling you, it probably is true. So back in Belgrade, I'm guessing you're dialing Jadranka again.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What the? What was her reaction when you called?"
She came and rescued us. She brought Burek. And then we went over to her husband, Ivan's place, and we drank some beers until we decided we were going to take the train to Budapest.
Okay.
That morning. It leaves at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we just stayed awake and drank some beers and then went to Budapest.
And from Budapest back to Berlin, or?
No, we kept going all the way to Prague on the train. We just kept going. And then we got there and we realized, like, we didn't see everything. Like, we knew those girls in Split. Like, I want to go back. So we got a plane and we flew to Split. And then we're there and we're like, well, we have to rent a car to get around, right?
Not Trabant, I guess.
Not Trabant. It was just a regular rental car. And so we found these girls. Hey, what are you guys doing? Hey, yeah. And they go like, did you guys ever go to Bosnia? And I was like, no, we didn't ever go there. And she goes, well, let's go. I go, okay. The war was still happening. And so we just picked them up one morning.
In Split.
We drove to where, I don't remember the city in Croatia where the border where you cross. Actually, we probably got there around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It was starting to get dark.
From Split to the border with Bosnia. So so you passed Dubrovnik, I'm guessing.
No. In between.
In between, okay.
It was in between. Somewhere it goes in on the way to Medjugorje.
Okay,
right?
yeah, Medjugorje, yeah.
And so we like police checkpoint, right? We're used to that by now, Okay, here they are. Fuck. They wanted to look at our passports.
Do you know where your passport is?
Yeah, dude, all this bullshit, And then the guy's just like, okay, go. So then there's no lights. We're just driving, and all the road is just our headlights. And the girls go, okay, we're in Bosnia now. I'm like, really? They go, yeah. They go, that was it? She goes, yeah, there's no border. There's just, now you're in Bosnia. So we're just driving on this road with just our headlights, and we don't even know where the fuck we're driving. Like,
no maps.
No, nothing. Nothing. We want to go to Sarajevo. She said, Sarajevo's cool. There's some cool places to go, So we came up to this fork in the road, and there was like a sign saying like Mostar, right? And the sign was just fucking bullet holes everywhere. And this house, it was all just completely blown to shit. And we're like, fuck, like, what are we doing here? And we saw like, okay, let's go this way. So we turned that way, and we're driving. It's about 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock. And we drove through some town. I wish I could remember the name. I think it starts with a T. And there was a disco. And there was like a couple of people having a drink. Like, okay, it's not so bad. People are having a drink in the bar, it's cool. And we drove to Medjugorje, actually.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And there was all of a sudden, Medjugorje was, nothing ever happened bad there, So we found an old lady, and we stayed at her house, and she slept over, and it's like all gift shops and stuff like that. We're like, I mean, what the fuck, And next day, we decided, okay.
You know why there are gift shops there?
Yeah, because of the visions. Yeah. Well, so I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
So back in California, they had these are the kind of guys that would go to Medjugorje, like, oh, we went on this trip where they see the Virgin Mary, and it's changed my life. I remember hearing like at the church people talking this stuff. I was never very religious even when I was young, so I was like,
whatever.
I don't want to ever go there. But there I am, right? Yeah. And it was cool. From there we drove to Mostar, and it was during the day. And the road was bad, but it was just a straight drive, and there was no checkpoints or anything. And we went into Mostar a little bit, got something to eat, Mostar was destroyed. So there was nothing, it was just ruins, basically, and people just, living their life. And it was actually, horrific. But, that was in the middle of the day, and we decided we're going to just keep going to Sarajevo. And the roads were all dirt roads then, and they were blown. The bridges were blown out, so we're just going over like this makeshift, stuff, and we just did 3 hours, 4 hours driving along the river, and we got into here, and we saw it was the city. They just opened up this. They used to go through Mount Igman was the pass, but they were going for the first time. You could go straight in here.
Through
so
tunnel.
it was just new.
Through tunnel.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we get here, and I mean, we saw, it's a war. We saw just destruction and shit everywhere, military shit, and we got here, and everybody's like outside drinking beer, like. Didn't expect that, And it's like the bars are open and everything's open. And like, so we just pulled our car in, and we're like, let's find out where we're going to stay. And we found an old lady we could stay at her house, and we dropped off our things. And there was like the town was having this big party, and one thing, the guys were dressing up like women, like a lot of people were dressing up like women. And like, what's going on? And they go, this is the first day that the curfew ended in 4 years.
Oh,
and we're celebrating it, and like, so we came that day, and it was like, I mean, I think about it because it was really heavy. I mean, even if I didn't know a lot of things that were happening, I could still feel them. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
And there was a lot of feeling. Yeah. There was a lot of relief, a lot of sadness, a lot of like exhale. Yeah. And so we stayed up all night, just partying, drinking with people, and I think we went back to the old lady's house around 6 a.m. and stayed, I think, one more day. Mm-hmm. But that was a big deal. And so this goes back to the thing I was saying about my phone. Yeah. So the next day I just walked around and I took pictures, and just like, I mean, maybe I'm one of these assholes, in a way, like I'm this American guy and I just want to see what everything is like, but on the other hand, I'm also a person who was never really told the truth about anything. So I also want to know, I want to know, like, this war that's on the news that everybody talks about, what is it really? What is it? What is it on, what's the human side? What happens to normal people, And I just wanted to see everything, and I took a lot of pictures. And, so what brings me back to now is last night, I've been here a bunch of times since then, but it always kind of, that was a very strong impression. And I started just having this weird, like, flashbacks to then, like, when we were going from the red carpet to the hotel, and there's a little red carpet outside the Cineplex. And I was standing there, we're waiting to go to the movie, and I'm looking at the big, tower across the street. And it's like really like kind of a weird feeling, like I've been here before, And I have my camera phone, and I'm looking, and I took a picture from exactly where I was standing. And I found my picture, and I'm looking at the thing, and I'm looking at the photo, like, fuck. Like, it's really like, exactly there though,
Yeah.
Such a trip, And then it happened again, like 3 hours later from a different place. I'm looking at there, and we're talking, having beer, and I'm looking at this building, and I'm like, shit.
The same.
I was sitting here too.
Yeah.
Like, it really freaks me out, actually, a little.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's
I can actually show you the picture so you know I'm not lying. Because I took the new picture too. Yeah.
You'll show me the picture after the conversation.
Yeah.
But just let's keep conversation going because it's an amazing story, man. So you stayed in Sarajevo at the time for like 2 days. How much? How long?
2 days.
Yeah. And after that, you went back to Split.
That was the end, really. Took the car back, and that was the end of the trip.
Yeah. You went back to the States.
Back to States.
Back to States. And when you landed, I'm guessing in San Francisco, right? Yeah. When you landed in the city, when you landed there, did reality of living over there changed somewhat for you?
A lot.
Yeah.
Well, what I noticed, the first thing was I couldn't tell anybody about my experiences here because they couldn't understand them.
Yeah.
Like they saw everything from their own reference. Yeah. So when I was trying to explain what I saw, they could only think about it like how they know things. So I was showing people my pictures, and I was saying like in Serbia, the cops stop you every like 5 miles. They're always doing a checkpoint, and people are like, oh yeah, it sounds like here. I'm like, no, it's not like here. But they couldn't understand, and they didn't really want to understand. They already knew everything,
Yeah.
So actually, I haven't talked to too many people about it. This actually is the most I've ever talked about this trip right now.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
Wow.
I've done a couple of interviews talking about it very generally, never in depth. First time.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored, and I'm very happy that you're doing it because it's an amazing story.
Cool.
And I think that when you look at over the past decades since that trip, the place has changed so much.
It has.
The circumstances have changed so much. We're grappling still with a lot of open wounds, a lot of things that we still need to overcome. But a bunch of people are trying, man. There's a lot of us trying to reconnect.
Right.
And because we still we are inhabiting this same cultural domain, same language, same background. We share a lot of history together.
Right.
Beside all of those horrible things, and stories like yours are very important actually.
Right.
They show the human side of everything.
I think that's really everything else is bullshit, right?
Yeah. And it would be really awesome if you could, put it in a book or something.
I'm thinking about that. I just want to do it in a way that's not too exploitive and not too like sensational. I'm
very worried about it because knowing you, I know it's not gonna come out this way. It's just you're not that kind of a person who's gonna put that kind of an effort.
I see.
To make it like
right. I don't care about getting book sales.
Yeah. So even if you tried, you wouldn't be able to do it. I'm thinking, because it's not just a story to sell. It has a bigger meaning for you. A deeper meaning. There's like a message that you're trying to convey. It's something to get across.
Right.
It's for people to understand. And if you have something like that in mind, I would just let it go, man. I would just sit down and just. As Hemingway said, there's nothing to writing. All you have to do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. And I'm thinking and I think that's kind of true. Yeah.
Cool.
And back in San Francisco, it's mid '90s, late '90s.
Right.
Faith No More is like at peak at the moment before breaking up for the first time.
Right.
You already had like 4 albums. And you were, I'm guessing, thinking about coming back here.
Yeah, and doing gigs here. Like, always been my dream to Faith No More play Albania. I wanted to be the first band to play Albania. That was my dream. But I think
who beat you to it? Who beat you to it?
what's it called, that band, Boney M?
Oh. It doesn't seem fair. But you know, but from those disco experiences, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah.
So did you play?
Never played there.
Never played there.
Never played anywhere except Serbia, actually, and Zagreb, and Belgrade, and Exit Festival.
Yeah, Novi
That's
Sad.
it. I wanted to do a show here when we got back together, and Vedran from Dubioza Collective was helping me try to book a gig here, and it just didn't happen. I don't remember what the reason was. Some logistical problem.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to do that because I think that. You know, I mean, music to me, it was always part of the thing of music was an adventure. I grew up, you know, I mean, Elvis Presley was an adventure. Think about him touring in the South, you know, in Mississippi when he was playing. He was radical stuff, you know. Yeah. So my allure of rock and roll was danger and experience. And also, you know, I think, you know, it's like in literature, you know, fear is always the last step before enlightenment. Right?
Yeah.
It's always the guard post that keeps you from enlightenment. And if you can conquer your fear, you can see what you need to see. Yeah. And Black Sabbath is an example of that. Scary music that scared the shit out of people, satanic. But actually, if you can conquer that, it's a good rock band, you know?
It's one of the best.
It's a freeing rock band to overcome this stigma, you know? And so this is a weird story about me that people probably don't know, but my father really loved music. And he was a lawyer. He was just a business guy. But he's a freak, you know, in a way that he didn't show his friends, where he liked eclectic music. He really liked John Lennon, and he really liked David Bowie. So when I was 9 years old, he told me, get a friend from your school, and I'm going to take you to a concert. So this is like 1971, 1972. I was like 9 years old, and he took me to see David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust tour.
Jesus.
And I was like, you know,
wow.
Third grade. So yeah, 9 years old, right?
Wow. Do you have some memorabilia from that?
I don't think so. He might have a ticket. He died, but I think he might have it, you know, in a locked away in chest. But
especially if it's the first concert.
Yeah, that was my first concert, and
you know, as a father, I would keep the fucking ticket, man. So
you know, he should. I should ask my mom that. Yeah. This actually, when. It's not just an American thing for me just to go drive that mountain. It's also that experience because I was just an American kid who rode his bicycle and ate ice cream, and he took me to this place where, you know, people think of glam music as, you know, they think of like the clothes and the hair and the guitar solos, but it wasn't really like that. It's hard to describe, but it was very subculture. Yeah. David Bowie played in a place in Long Beach in LA that was like maybe 2,500 people, 3,000. He wasn't a big commercial act. It was underground. It was like punk. And the crowd were dirty, fucked up people. They were dressed like women, a lot of them, and makeup, but fucked up. They were doing drugs like all over the place and smoking weed everywhere. I mean, for me, smoking weed was drugs. I'm 9 years old. You know, and it was the 70s. So it wasn't even like that normal for the States. We still had a big conservative, you know, society. And that was like, that's where I saw the other world for the first time. Not the world I grew up in, not the middle class world that was American, that everything worked. But I saw this kind of fearful other life, you know.
Fringes of society.
And this kind of got me, and David Bowie's records, some of them were very dark, actually. John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, very dark record. That's like Black Flag, actually, for that time, you know. And I would just listen, you know, to these records and read the lyrics. And like, I mean, it actually freaks me out a little bit to think about it, but super dark stuff, you know. And yeah, it made a big impact.
The thing about it is, you know, for example, when they say about, you know, the glam, you know, like you close your eyes and listen, you know, close your eyes and listen to to the genius, open your eyes and look at the circus.
Actually interesting. Yeah,
in a way. Not
absolutely.
literally in a way. And and anybody who's trying to say anything against David Bowie, you just know those people know nothing about music and nothing about art, basically.
Yes.
Especially nowadays when he's so established, but at the time, what I actually want to know is, so you were thinking about coming back, having a gig in Albania to be the first band playing here, to play all over the place, of course, and you were big at the time. But did you came back before you broke up for the first time with the band?
Oh, many times. Yeah. Yeah.
So when was the first time back?
I can't. This is where the dates get blurred because I came back a few times.
Yeah. Okay.
I came back to Belgrade before we broke up again 2 or 3 times. God, let me think of all the places I went. I didn't come back here to Sarajevo, but I did go to Skopje. What I did was maybe in 1998, maybe 1999, when the band already split up, I came, and we went through Albania, through the parts I didn't see before. I took the bus and went through a little more through Kosovo to see that more, and into Mitrovica and places like that.
1999 was pretty,
Yeah. So, I don't know, you want to hear another story?
Yeah, of course, man. Just as much as you can tell them.
Bill's classic second adventure, right? Yeah. So
Bill and Eric.
Yeah, Bill and Eric.
Bill and
I wasn't with Eric. I was with Mark this time.
Okay, Bill and Mark.
And so we went through, and Tirana had changed a lot, and Skoder was cool. We got to actually hang out there a little bit, and but it was still, the troubles had just happened, the crisis you were talking about.
Yeah.
So nobody was going outside at night. So all you could hear is dogs barking.
Yeah.
That was the only sound.
Just a second. Remember, do you want to smooth the conversation a little bit?
What do you mean? Oh, I think so.
Do you want to try mine first?
Yes, let's try yours first.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like I'm having some bullshit bottle, so I'm gonna hide it a bit.
Right.
Yeah. You know how we say?
No, that's not a bullshit bottle. That's a real bottle.
Yeah, that's a real bottle. Yeah, you know how we say here? If it's a bottle of Coca-Cola and a cap of Sprite, it's rakia inside, man.
And probably a good one.
And it looks like the gas they sold in the 90s. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So this is supposed to be an apple one.
Okay.
And you, as a rakia expert?
Živeli,
man. Cheers. Yeah.
No. No, it's a little rough for me. It's good. It's good, but
it's young.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still angry. A little angry.
Yeah. It's young. It's just just made.
I'll drink it. I'm going to drink it.
Not just well. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It is a good one. Yeah.
It's just young.
Yes, it needs to stabilize a little more. I think.
Yeah. It needs. He's from the village called Zakomo, near the city of Rogatica in Bosnia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
My wife's family.
Interesting.
My wife's family is from there, and they have a tradition of making rakia. So they make it from all sorts of fruit.
Fruit. When it's the fruit, you know it.
Yeah.
And when it has the soul of the fruit still.
Yeah. We'll talk about rakia a little bit later.
Yeah.
And you have brought your own rakia.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it. That's gonna be a different segment of the conversation.
Sure.
Let's just keep this one rolling.
Okay. So we wanted to go. I don't know why. I think we were going back to Belgrade, but we wanted to go through. We were staying in Pristina, and Pristina was still it was pretty tense. 1999, something like that. Like, I was taking pictures, like I always do, and people did not want any fucking, especially in the hotel. They were like, who's taking photos,
Yeah.
So kept it cool. But we took a taxi up to Mitrovica. It didn't cost anything, and got there, and we were right at the bridge, that crosses over to Kosovska Mitrovica, and we were on the Albanian side the whole time, and I was like, yeah, but we want to go over there, but it was heavily fortified, and just like UN tanks, all that shit, barbed wire. But there was a little walkway, like...
Yeah, you guys want some? Sorry.
I didn't please, guys.
Yeah, continue.
And a lot of different soldiers from different, I guess it was K4, right?
Yeah.
And so, but what can they do, If we want to cross the bridge, they go like, passport? Yeah, here's my passport, I'm American. I want to go over there, And they were like, they can't say no, Yeah. It's not their country, you know? So
they were American?
No, they were like a lot of French, but there was one American guy, and he looked like the kind of supervisor.
Okay, yeah.
And he came up to us, like they were trying not to get us to go over the bridge. And we go, hey, we saw he had a little American thing. We go, hey man, is this safe to go over there? Because like the Albanian side was very vibrant. There was a lot of activity, and the Serbian side was like dead. It was like quiet, like two people having a coffee, Yeah. And we're like, is it okay to go over there? And he's like, you guys, I know Serbians, they seem like really nice people, and they are, and I like them, but when they get in a group, they don't like Americans, and you don't want to go there. And we're like, well, maybe we'll just go over there and get a coffee or something. He goes, don't do it, guys. Just, why do you want to go there? There's nothing there for you, don't do it. And my friend, to his credit, goes, well, we're gonna go anyway, And I was like, are you sure? He says like it's pretty dangerous. And he's like, fuck it, we're going. It's like, okay. So we got there, we walked over the bridge. I mean, all of a sudden we're there, like it was like in the middle of the bridge, there's this giant courtyard, and there's just us walking around, with our bags, and just people sitting at coffee, just kind of, just looking at us, just checking us out. And I was like, this feels really fucking weird here. I don't know if I feel comfortable. He goes, let's get something to eat, see if it changes, Yeah. So we're sitting there eating, and here I come, get my fucking camera out again. I'm filming, and this I-4 goes by. Tank stops, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you fucking taking pictures of us, What the fuck? I'm sorry. And I'm like, this is kind of a bad energy. I don't know. Oh yeah, sorry. This is a bad energy. I don't really. I think we should go back over the bridge. She goes, okay, fine. So we're walking back towards the bridge, and there's like a little kiosk where they're selling Serbian like stuff, like flags and like postcards. Like fuck the coca, fuck the pizza, this shit, right?
Yeah.
And a little kid selling all these bootleg CDs, right? So okay, I'm gonna buy a couple things while I'm here, buy some CDs, and so the kid like gets some rakia out and pours some rakia. And it's fine. Živeli, have a drink. I do that before he does it. So I drank it, and he's like, pour some more in my glass. So I go, fuck, I have to drink this now. Again, I'm getting drunk. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fuck. I'm starting to kind of lose my sense of control, like where I can see what's going on. And this guy, I hear this voice behind me, like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I have a record label, and I'm looking to hear some cool Serbian underground music." And he's like, "I will take you there." And then it was fucking great. Had the greatest fucking time. Met everybody in the town. Stayed over for 3 days. Fucking great parties, excellent. And I kept coming back. And I don't know, I haven't been in touch for a few years with the guys there, but there's a band there called Hosenpfeffer, cool guys. And we started booking gigs there, like bands from San Francisco. I was bringing them out, and they would always play in Kosovska Mitrovica at the Black
Bands
Lady
from San
Club.
Francisco?
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
We did a couple gigs there, and I did a gig with a German band I was playing in, so we started doing gigs around there. It was fucking great.
Was that the first time you actually said the line? You know, I have a record label. I'm looking for an underground band here.
Yes. but I was doing a record label at the time, and I was actually looking for foreign cool stuff. So I wasn't lying.
Yeah, when I met you, actually, the first conversation you and me had was about music. Actually, you know, you asked me what kind of music I listened to. You know, I was telling you about some hardcore punk bands that I've been listening to at the time, and then you told me about your love for the music in a way, like the number one thing you like to do when you travel around the world with your band is like finding unknown, underground, you know, original stuff, you know, from the countries, and eventually, if you find something interesting, you're trying to help them produce the music, you know, put them out in the world, you know, help them promote. And you actually done that with a bunch of bands here.
Yes, and I would say yes. There's two things that I want to do. One thing is exactly what you described, and it's the fact that, you know, America, back to the arrogance that we have, just naturally, we export everything. We don't import any culture because we know everything. We have the best culture. Why do we need to know what's happening over here? Yeah. And it's a very superficial, two-dimensional view of culture. And I think that we suffer for this view. And what I want to bring is something, because music is also like rakia, you know, the farm where it's grown, you know, the soil, the land, the fruit always has something different. And even the music, the environment is connected to the music. And this kind of deeper way of appreciating something, I think Americans could benefit from seeing deeper than the commercial aspect of music or the fashion aspect of music. It's also the origins of it, the soul of why they're doing this, you know? And that, to me, is the fascinating part, because you can't disconnect where something comes from what it is. I really don't think so. Yeah,
well, you know, we all kind of suffer from it. Mm-hmm. We all kind of suffer from it all over the world. You know, it's the easiest thing in the world to point a finger at the
you're right.
States.
Every culture does this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's the easiest thing to point a finger at the States. Yeah. You know, because it's a kind of a low-hanging fruit.
Yes,
you know,
and I do, because I come from the States, so that's why I'm being critical. But you're right. Everybody does this.
Everybody does this. You know, so we all have our, you know, sets of, I don't know, you know, curtains that we need to, you know, open in order to see our fucking neighbors. Yeah. Let's start there, you know. Yeah. Let's start there, and then let's open up to another possibilities, you know, to experience diversity in culture, you know, because it does nothing but good for everyone involved. And you know, and it kind of, you know, it's kind of one of the nicest things I've seen when I went to the States. You know, when we were traveling, you know, I had one vision of what it's like, right? Because I went one time in the States, in America. I went one time, and I spent
only one time?
Only one time.
But 2 months.
2 months in a car,
it was a big
driving around, you know. And you think you know Americans. You think you know them, you know. And we flew down to the O'Hare in Chicago, right, you know, and we prepared over there with, you know, a bunch of our communities big over there. Yeah. You know? And then we went down the Route 66. You know, and we went from Illinois down to Missouri, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Then we went down to Texas, to Arizona, New Mexico, California, back to Nevada. You know, we went the loneliest road in America, the Highway 50. You know.
Did you go to Mississippi or Louisiana?
No. I hadn't.
Next time.
Next time. I know. We didn't visit the Pacific Northwest. We didn't visit the Florida.
It's a big fucking place.
Yeah, I know. But we went, you know, from Niagara to Tijuana.
Wow.
And, you know, from San Diego, Tijuana.
Excellent.
And then from Atlantic to Pacific, you know, we visit a bunch of different places, you know, and all of a sudden you realize how much people differ from state to state.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in Europe, it's completely different.
Absolutely.
They just happen to share the same language,
yes,
which also kind of differ from state to state. And once you reach the South, the most amazing thing in the world, man.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I thought that I'm gonna love the New York the best, or something like that. You know? Something on the lines of that.
Yeah.
But once I went to Texas, Texas is awesome.
Wait till you go to New Orleans.
Yeah.
So great.
So yeah, we all suffer from it. So
you
know, but it's easier. The easiest thing in the world is to point the finger in the States. So okay, and this is the moment where we can segue in this the second part of our conversation, even though I'm guessing a lot of stories from traveling, but we're gonna touch them also along the way. You started discovering bands in this region, and for example, let's just name a few. I don't know, Kulur Shock, Elvis Jackson from Slovenia. Have you collaborated with Dubioza maybe?
A little bit, yeah.
And
I released them on my label in the States. Yeah.
So this journey started in Mitrovica with the guys you're drinking rakia with. You know, you said I have a record label and I'm looking for underground bands there.
Well, let's see. This was around 1999, so I was already doing the record label then.
Yeah. And looking for underground bands.
But I hadn't met Kulur Shock yet. Yes, so it was before that.
Yeah. And what was? Tell us about the Kulur Shock.
Kulur Shock were interesting. I got a call one night at my house, and
in San Francisco.
Yeah, it was Jello Biafra. Yeah, they called me. I go, hey, what's going on? He goes, so I hear you're really into, Eastern European music, and there's a guy in Seattle named Gino, and you should really meet him. I'm like, well, Jello Biafra says I should meet this guy. Okay, I gotta meet the guy.
Hey, Jello Biafra, man.
Yes, okay, cool. So I talked to Gino on the phone, and he kind of explained he was kind of a singer from Sarajevo, and we talked about Sarajevo a little bit, and he's like, well, come up here for the weekend and see what we do. And they're playing like this folk music basically, but re-engineered, which isn't so unusual now, but at the time, and then in Seattle, I mean. That's nobody knows what Balkan music was up there. I thought, well, it sounds kind of interesting. And I went up there and I just met the guys and I just clicked with them. They're just a very unusual band. They don't fit in any box, and they're just strange guys for real. They're not faking it.
Yeah, but they are also awesome musicians.
Awesome musicians, absolutely awesome musicians, and absolutely awesome people. When I say strange, I mean that in the best possible way.
Gino is one of a kind.
Absolutely, and he's a real guy. And this is kind of like I decided, well, let's try to do something together. So Fuck the INS was the record, and they had recorded it already in this like garden shed in the backyard.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I've got a little studio in my basement in San Francisco. Like, come down, stay at my house for a few days, and let's try to see if we can mix an album, and I'll release it on my label. And it was pretty bad conditions for mixing. It actually sounds pretty good if you think about like how primitive it was. And I really just got to know the guys and how they worked, and I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to sell this thing. There's no context for it here, but I believe in it, and I like the lyrics. I know what they're doing, and I'd been here enough to where we could. I got the vision part, and I appreciated it. And I don't know what Americans are going to think, but let's fucking do it. And the really funny thing, which isn't so funny, but I had a whole campaign with PR. And going to college stations. I hired this PR agency that because we have all the college radios across America. 9/11 happened. Oh. Right around the time that the album came out. And they heard this like Eastern influenced music, and it was like dead. It just died.
And the album is called Fuck the INS.
It's called Fuck the INS with this music. It was the worst thing you could ever release. We sold maybe 2. That was it.
That was a big flop.
But like the radio stations were sending us back the CDs, and breaking it in half and sending it back to us. Like,
really?
They not only didn't play it, they hated it. But I worked with those guys for a long time after that. I mean, it didn't affect me and my relationship with them. I still support what they're doing, and it's still a good thing. I mean, they put in the work. I like them.
Yeah, it's not just putting in the work. They became global in a way, because around that time, at the end of 90s and the early 2000s, Giles Peterson was doing his thing, on the radio, BBC Radio, and this new thing emerged in the world called the world music.
Right. That's right.
It became a thing, like Nike commercial used.
Exactly. It was very hip then. Yes.
It was very hip at the time, and they were looking for this kind of sound.
That's true.
And there's like, and this is like a hot pocket for it.
But this was too heavy, aggressive for world people.
Yeah.
So they didn't really get it either.
Yeah, because they were heavily influenced by punk and heavy sound, and guitars and distortions and everything. Yeah.
Where the world music audience was thinking more Yanni.
Yeah.
Yoga music.
Yeah.
It's like this bothers me. This is kind of like with Kulur was kind of a world music label, but what people think of a world music, it's like, it's like ethnic in a way, like perform for me, like the master, like dance for me, show me, your ethnic spirit, like, which I find really condescending and offensive, and what I found was the younger generation that was still very aware of its roots, that was trying to make music to that, but if it was doing it in a really honest way, tended to be kind of angry because they were also invisible.
Yeah.
And so there was this, what I found was what world music to me, the real one was real urgent. There was more urgency about wanting to be recognized, and being not recognized. And it wasn't happy music that you do yoga to. And so that's really where I went with that.
Yeah, and when we met at the time, I remember, so we were talking about the bands, and you said, wait here. And you went to your room in the hotel, and you brought me like bunch of CDs. I just went to the Philippines. This is like a Philippine hardcore beat-down band. I went to, and you just gave me bunch of CDs of unknown bands from all over the world. But the problem was, none of the CDs were labeled. Oh. And once you memorized them, like this one is this one, 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 and you gave them to me, but they mixed in a bag with me. And once I took them out, I had no idea what. So I kind of listened for months. I listened to bands I know nothing about.
You still don't know.
I still don't know because even when the Shazam came, Shazam is not going to recognize this music.
Right.
That's
true.
It's completely underground. Right. Yeah. So
okay, it looks like you could use some shliva.
Yeah, man. All right. Some plum. Okay.
All right.
So this is a whole different story, part of your life story, man, and it's quite impressive one, I'm gonna say. And I've been looking forward to try this rakia for a long time.
Okay, yeah, you can't get it here.
Yeah, I know I can't.
You have to bring it from the United States and smuggle it back here.
That's fucking insane. Why you don't sell it here?
Well, there's a few reasons. One is because the reason I originally did it was to introduce it to America.
Yeah.
And also bring a good one to America for Balkan people, because what you get out there is shit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring a good one because I know they would appreciate it. That was my original idea.
Yeah. And if you're a foreigner with rakia, you have the bar is set, really high.
For sure.
Yeah.
But they also, nothing tastes like, they say, it's not like the rakia I get at home.
Yeah.
Like for my family. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to break these rules. I'm going to bring a family rakia to the United States where you can buy it in a store, which is impossible. And it's like, it's not impossible anymore. That's what this is going to be.
Yeah, so let's salute, man. Živeli. Let's try this plum. Oh, it smells really nice, man. This is actually really nice rakia, man.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. It has a rich taste, It has. Where do you keep it?
Where do we keep it?
Where do you hold the rakia?
In the barrels.
In the barrels.
This is in the barrel. The color comes from the barrel.
Yeah, from the barrel.
Yeah.
Which wood is it?
Wood oak, Serbian oak.
Serbian oak.
Yeah, from Gould Mountain.
And how old is it?
18 months. Not old.
Yeah, this is very good rakia, man.
It's a very good rakia. There's no. We don't cheat. This is how a family would make it for their own family. Like if your daughter's getting married, this is how you would make the rakia.
How many times distilled?
2 times.
2 times.
Yeah.
So it's prepek.
Yeah.
It's prepečenica.
Yeah.
And you can tell because of the afterburn that has it has a stronger punch.
Yes, I understand that Bosnians don't like it quite so strong.
Yeah,
they like it a little softer. Yeah.
So rakia is called YEBIGA.
Yep.
And please tell us the story about rakia. And what I really want to know is, because the Americans, they don't have a context
all.
for it at all.
No.
So for them, it's like, for example, whenever I had friends from the States, especially from the States, and giving them rakia, of course, first thing they would go to, was, moonshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first association they have with it. Like, this is a moonshine, and then you're trying to explain, not really, but in a way, kind of is.
Yeah, at least as a context that they can understand. Yeah.
So how hard was it to make this rakia? Tell us the story of it, and how hard was it, to export it to the States and sell it over there? Because I think by the standards, law, and whatever, I don't know, I'm guessing it's not easy.
It's very complicated. I mean, in the United States, what people here don't realize is that even though, America is the land of freedom and all these things, for business, it's very easy in some ways, but for alcohol business, it's not. It's a very conservative country with alcohol. So every state has a different law and a different tax. And they make it very hard to do. And it's a really big country. So this rakia, for example, it's made by hand. You can only make so much rakia by hand. And the United States is such a big country, you can never make a Jack Daniels by hand. It's absolutely impossible. But the system only really works when you have a lot of volume. So, I mean, I don't know. It's very complicated. There's a lot of ways I can talk about this and why it's interesting for the States. One is we believe that we have this boutique artisanal spirits industry, and there are people who do things the artisanal way, but there's also a lot of mythology around spirits that's not real. Everybody says, when I said, I'm going to bring rakia, I'm going to start importing spirits in America, they're like, okay, you need a story. You need to create a story. I'm like, well, fuck. This is a pretty good story. I don't have to make a story. The story is pretty good. But they want to hear like, in 1855, Jeb Johnson, had a barrel. He had a dream. That's fake bullshit. And like, for example, something like 85% of all the whiskey in America comes from one company, one distillate. They distill all of the grain that all the companies buy from. The only difference is that they put it in their own barrels back home. But it's not really like, it's all the same. It's the same. Okay. I mean, there are some that don't do that, and full respect, right? But most of them don't, and they all have these bullshit stories, you know? I have a bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, I know. Just like modern music, man.
Very similar. Very similar. A lot of parallels with rakia and music.
Yeah. So, do you know why it's called rakia?
No, I don't.
Yeah, the etymology of it?
Well, all I know about rakia, I know that it's an Ottoman with rak, arak. All of this is alcohol, words for alcohol.
Raki, I think, you can check it out, Google it, I don't know. But I think this is the story. Raki in Arabic means sweat. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so because the process of distillation is drip by drip, is sweating.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know if it's true. Please Google it. I don't want to. Maybe it's no. I'm entering this stage of my life where I have no idea where some thoughts that I have come from.
Right.
I don't know if it's an experience. I don't know if I read it somewhere. I don't know if I made it up. If it's a false memory of what. I just have it. And I have no context for it or origin of it. I just don't know.
That's why I emailed you this morning to make sure that it was at 2:00 today.
That's a different thing.
Okay. One thing I did learn, I've learned a lot though, like rakia now, they can find like that it goes back to the 11th century. They found I think it was Sliva actually, in Bulgaria, North Bulgaria, they found a ruins. So that's, 1000 AD. Which, that's not surprising. But what is surprising is that brandy, which we have to call this in America, didn't actually come to France until 1313. That was the first brandy. So this is like 300 years older than brandy.
Yeah.
This is actually brandy before brandy was brandy. And this is actually like a missing link of distilled spirits
Yeah.
in the history that was completely missing in the chain, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of people who are experts in rakia,
Yeah.
and they were also saying the same story, like that actually high quality rakias are way out of the league for bunch of cognacs and bunch of different stronger spirits like that, and but nobody's giving it credit for, because we are not very good at branding things.
I think that's exactly true.
Yeah.
I when I decided I was going to do this was about 3 years ago, and I went to really.
Yeah,
We're good?
It's a correct, yes.
Oh yeah.
I was
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
All right,
So
cool.
now you know.
I decided I was going to do this, and I was just thinking about the States. So I really went to try a lot of rakia. I mean, hey, man, I can be at somebody's house and they can drink their grandfather's rakia and have a great time.
Yeah.
But that's not really like, I have to kind of take it a professional aspect to actually really know it a little better. And so I had some of these premium master rakias.
Yeah.
I would say it's true. I would drink them over cognac any day.
Yeah. Any day of the week.
They're insane.
Every day
I mean,
of the week.
they are so good that I would say, like, some of these I try the first time, it's like I see the clouds. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost a spiritual thing when it's done good. Really. It clicks this thing in my brain that's just like magic.
Yeah, it's
Really.
so smooth.
Oh.
You just sometimes when I'm having this privileged situation to drink, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
12 years old rakia
Yeah.
or something like that, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It doesn't taste like rakia anymore. It almost tastes like something, I don't know, something different. It's so soft and so rich in taste, and it has this long aftertaste, and it kind of goes well with food and everything. It's just like it goes well with sweets also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes healthy. Like, this has to be good for my body because my body really, really loves it.
Yeah. Hey, you guys want to try it?
Yeah, please. Come on, guys.
Because it's already an open bottle.
No, please. This is for.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
I'm going to leave this with you today, so
Oh, thank you.
may the night be your.
What night, man? It's 3 o'clock.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
3 p.m. It's gonna be gone.
You're true. That's true.
Yeah, you don't know these guys. It's gonna be gone by the end of the conversation, man. you better pour it some more to us, because we're gonna rakia is gonna be gone very soon. Yeah. Let's go back to the producing music story.
Yeah.
And so you gave me a bunch of those CDs, and listened to them. It was 13 years ago, so I'm guessing those CDs are not worth anything anymore. I'm guessing no sound can be salvaged from. So you can, open my eyes to what those bands were. So I'm guessing I'm gonna.
If you don't have them, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. No way. So
Sorry. I kind of fucked up. I got all the way to the last step, and then the most important piece I didn't give you.
Just write it down. But I'm guessing you're getting a lot of music like that, and
I did. I'm not looking for it as much as I used to. The main reason is because streaming services, anybody can do it themselves. They don't need me anymore, really.
Yeah.
Before, I was doing something, I was really trying to help people. But
Yeah, but you have a big name,
so I'm a curator. That's true.
You have a big brand, Faith No More is not, it's something that holds.
Helps.
Yeah. And so you can open the doors.
That's true.
Yeah, you can open the doors, and we appreciate it, really, and I think it's important. But what is the most difficult thing that you find in this line of business when you have, for example, like Kulur Shock or whatever? You have a good, solid product that really, it has something to offer, to bring something new to the table, but people keep refusing it.
It doesn't necessarily bother me, because would you say Kulur Shock now is pretty well known, right?
Yeah, worldwide, yeah.
So it's kind of like with Faith No More, my experience. I mean, we toured for 10 years, and we were invisible. Nobody cared about our music. Our music was really kind of strange compared to bands that like Poison at the time were really popular, right? but it worked in the long term. We did the right thing, I think.
Yeah.
Angel Dust was actually so influential for people, but it was actually a commercial failure. Half my life after Angel Dust has been like, boy, some people look at me like, boy, you really had everything and you really went the wrong direction, Like, we got that a lot. Like, you're going the wrong way. You're blowing your career. Where, now that it's 2022 and Angel just had its, 30-year anniversary, people like, that was the most influential album. It survived, actually. It survived a lot of negativity, actually, at the time. And I think Culture Shock is the same. All this negativity that didn't work. I've believed that if you're doing something of value, it will find itself in time. It will stand up in time. And Culture Shock, I think, did.
Yeah,
so
definitely did.
You just have to do the right thing, and you just can't think about what it gets you in the short term. You have to do it because it has to happen.
Yeah, and Faith No More is one of those few bands that had huge cultural impact in alternative and underground culture. I can tell for Serbia because I grew up,
Right.
I was born and raised in Serbia until my early 20s. I didn't have much contact with, neighboring countries because, obvious reasons. And I'm trying to make up for it ever since. But, and when I started traveling around, the region, the former Yugoslavian countries, then I realized, we kind of have, the same background in everything. Because, if we listen to the same music, we're not really strangers.
Absolutely.
You're not
Totally.
we're not really strange. We share a lot of
Totally.
values, and the perceptions and the way we see the world. And all of a sudden you meet, a dude or a girl or whatever from, neighboring country, maybe they're different religion, maybe they're different color, maybe they're whatever, man. But once we compare our top 10 bands, things start to fit. All of a sudden we're dealing with the same anxieties, with same problems, with same struggles,
Yep.
trying to, find ourselves on our place under the sun, in the same way, and all of a sudden we're friends.
And the internet made it even more like that in a lot of ways.
At least in the beginning.
And now you all have the same language, English.
Now it's all hate, man. Now it's mostly, now it's, social media basically ruined the internet for everybody.
I know, fuck.
Yeah, fuck, man, that's horrible. Now you have a precise business model. If you follow through with that, you're gonna.
So tell me, this is a theory I have, and I could be wrong, but all this troll hate,
Yeah.
Did you think that maybe that messaging and this kind of tactic started in ex-Yugoslavia?
Trolling on internet?
No, but trolling in society.
I think you're overthinking
When
it.
things were breaking up. I mean, but what makes Croatia go to war with Serbia,
Okay.
What makes people separate in families so fast?
I think it goes way
More than that.
Yeah, way
Well,
more
I know
than
there's
that.
a lot of history.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about I think that this concept of trolling in a way, I think it's as old as people. As old as people in a way. If you look at in tribal cultures, in tribal behavior, we call it tribal behavior for a reason.
Right.
And I don't know,
Right.
Freud called it, the narcissism of similarities or whatever. So of
Yeah.
small differences.
Right.
We don't hate somebody from across the world, unless they're Americans. joking.
No.
We hate the neighbor, and I think it's a common human thing, unfortunately, all across the world.
Yes, I absolutely.
Because of the shared history and whatever.
I'm just thinking more like in the online sense, messaging, like specific messaging.
The propaganda
that
type.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of stuff happening in the States now, they must be consultants from that period of time here. They're hiring those people.
There's something in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to, for example, I had a podcast, I don't know how many episodes ago. People can go look it up. The guest was editor-in-chief of a very famous investigative journalism portal called The Creek. And the Scream, I guess, and I don't know what. I think that it stands for. It's an abbreviation for something. I forgot what. And he told me, and he's involved with the network of investigative journalists all over the world.
Right.
and he told me this map of how countries are dealing with journalists. So Russia have their own way,
right?
China have their own way, Americans have their own way. Sorry.
Could you send me that link after this conversation? I want to read about it. Yeah.
Germany has their own way, and Serbia has their own way. And for us, number one thing is propaganda machine, like the tabloids, you know, the autocracy, you know, owning of every media outlet, and then sending, you know, the messages via bots and via fake accounts, and you know, just, you know, before I kill you, I have to kill your reputation first.
Right.
You know, so undermining your character, undermining your work, undermining everything, just poisoning everything
we
around you.
We have that too. Yeah.
But I think we're like kind of at the moment like the world champions.
Yeah, you're better at it. Yeah. We're learning, but not so fast. Yeah. You're the masters.
So I think I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, if I'm conveying the right message, but you know, people can listen to the episode and they can make their own conclusions. Yeah. And I kind of trust what he says. So, you know,
that's very interesting.
There's something in it, truly.
There's just, you know, it's just things that I think about, right?
Yeah.
You know,
especially once you meet the people. This is the next thing that I've experienced in life. Whenever I travel, you know, either it's, you know, if it's a poor country, rich country, I don't know, uneducated, educated, this or that, whatever, you know, you have certain, you know, ideas, maybe what you're gonna see or who you're gonna meet, and once you go there, they all get shattered. Always
100% of the time.
You know, no exceptions. Always get shattered. And what I learned about it is when I went there, wherever I went, for example, Kosovo or Albania, whatever, you know, you meet the people just like you. They just want to have a nice life.
It's really true.
They just want to have a good life. They want to provide for the family.
And these are the people that are best for us, right? Yeah. When we lose the contact with these people is when we lose our way.
Yeah. When we lose the contact with these people, the only thing that is left is the narrative that is sold.
Exactly. Yeah. And that narrative is sponsored by somebody. Yeah. It's somebody's interest. We don't get the benefit from that. That's right.
At all.
Ever.
At all. So I think that the most important thing about the most important thing in our lives is whenever you get some money, go somewhere, man. Travel.
Yeah.
Just buy a fucking ticket and go.
Yeah. I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't give much advices, but I think that can be one.
Well, you know what? If you want to boil it down even more simple, just go there for the food. Right?
Yeah.
Just, if you like good food, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless it's North Europe, don't go there. Joking. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
It's the Rakia talking.
Hey, what do you guys think? We want to know what the jury says.
Yeah.
It's okay? It's going to work? Okay, cool.
We need more so we can, decide.
Told you, man. Told you. There's also this one story. I know that people listening or watching, they want to hear Faith No More stories, you know.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk Faith No More stories.
Yeah,
sure.
but we still have to talk about the film.
Okay. Oh yeah. Isn't that why I'm here?
Yeah. That's the reason why you're here, man. So yeah, we just kind of in a half through the conversation. Okay. Yeah. One more story about Faith No More.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna switch to the film.
Okay.
And then we're gonna find our way back.
Okay.
Okay. This is like from the Triangle of Sadness. Social shit. Okay.
There's only one way back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Horizontally.
Okay. Yes.
So yeah, I asked you if you can tell this story, and you said you can tell this story.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So we hang out, you and me, and you told me a bunch of stories, you know, about, you know, experiences with Faith No More, and there was this one story that really gave me perspective of, you know, how insane this, you know, celebrity fame thing really is. At the time when I had really no idea. At the time when I was, you know, young enough to believe that fame is what I need to strive for.
I understand.
Yeah. And then you tell me this.
I knocked down your
yeah.
No, I didn't realize that.
No,
but
no,
I'm sure I did.
But that was a good thing, man.
Okay.
That was a good thing because now I know. You were completely right, and you don't have to strive for fame. You have to strive for, you know, whatever you believe in. Mm-hmm. And if fame comes, it has to come on your own terms, man. So So you were going to the festival in Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
When was that?
1991, I think. Well, we played this Rock in Rio festival, which is, I think, maybe 1989.
Wow.
And I don't know what happened. Also, that country was just opening up at the time. So our music was really different. We played this big Rock in Rio with Guns N' Roses and with Billy Idol, New Kids on the Block.
I just love the sound. Yeah.
And we were really different for there. And for some reason, 2 reasons probably, we were cheap. But the people really liked our performance, and they brought us back on tour in Brazil for 1 month. And I don't think that any bands had ever toured Brazil like in this depth for like 1 month in Brazil. So we were, I mean, one thing I can say about Faith No More that really makes, I don't know if it's proud or makes me realize that I was with the right group of people, is that we always saw this as an adventure. We always saw what we did as an adventure, always. So our shows, I mean, when we were younger and we didn't worry about hurting ourselves so much, we did all kinds of crazy shit. Like, the crazier our shows got, especially up to Angel Dust time, the more insane they got, the more we were into it. We wanted to see where things would go. And I don't know if you could even do some of that anymore because of lawsuits, and it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But back then, it's all about experimenting and learning, you know, like the adventure. And Brazil was a fucking adventure. It was amazing. I mean, hard to describe, but bands didn't tour. We played in the Amazon, you know, like, and when you talk about doing a tour in Brazil, like our promoter, he works with other promoters from the region.
Yeah.
So the Amazon was a guy who was just said, okay, I'll put on the concert here. But he's like, they called him the gangster. I don't know what this guy did, but he was a motherfucker, you know?
It turns out that he was.
Yeah. No, he I mean, I don't know what he is, but he carried himself like one. He was a big man around that area, and he talked a lot of shit, but it was a strange scene. It was not things that a lot of people get to experience.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the story I told you was the one about
the story was about the manager who had to go to toilet repeatedly when the show actually happened.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
When Mike got lost.
When Mike got lost?
Yeah, in some village somewhere with some.
Who? I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't remember what I told you.
Yeah, the Russian roulette thing. I think it was.
Russian roulette. He lost the toilet. I mean, I'm talking about the police, right? The secret police thing that we had.
Now we're talking in codes, man.
No. Well, okay. So I could tell you the story that I think that I told you, but I don't remember about the bathroom part. But
at the bathroom, yeah.
We played in São Paulo, and so we had a woman who was kind of like she was our translator, and we had to have security back then. It was pretty dangerous. It's still pretty dangerous in Brazil, and we didn't feel under threat. But the promoter was like, "I'm paying a lot of money to bring you here, so you're going to have a security. You're going to have a translator." Okay. If we have to do it, fine. But we liked our translator. She was cool.
Yeah.
And she took Mike and Roddy to this police store that was, you could buy only for police members.
Okay.
These special jackets and badges. And she said, please do not wear this in Brazil. Like, this is just something I'm doing for you, but please. And they're like, no, don't worry about it, you know? So, of course, we played in São Paulo that night, and Roddy comes out in his underwear wearing the police jacket on the stage. But not only did he do that, but the mayor from the town was at the show.
Oh.
And it's like, where the fuck did they get that jacket? Like, that's fucked up. Like, and so then so Roddy says something like, any police in the audience? You know, he's in his underwear dancing around. And then, of course, Mike Patton, he's really good with languages, and he learned how to say police can shove it up their ass or something in Portuguese. Oh. But like to make people laugh, and people just kind of didn't laugh. It was like kind of an uncomfortable thing, and people knew it was this jacket, like a sort of a real like motherfucker department of the police. I think it was called Gaha, I think. So I felt the chill, and then my roadie was coming up to me and said, like, tell him to take it off. Tell him to take it off. And the translator was like crying backstage, and we're like, fuck, Roddy, take it off. So he took it off, and that was it. And then we got backstage and we had a big band fight, you know? Like, what the fuck? Like, the manager's like, what the fuck are you doing here? You know, you fucking Americans, like, you don't even know what you're doing, you know? Like, you can't just come in here and do this kind of shit. Like, people are really pissed off. And we're like, you know, kind of quiet. And I was like, you know, bad, but... so Igor from Sepultura was there.
Okay.
And this is back when Sepultura was still not very well known, only maybe in Brazil. And he's like, we should get you guys, especially Mike, because he had the microphone. We should probably get out of here. So we're like, okay, so let me come with you guys. And we put on like fake, we put our things over our head, and we just walked out with the audience and walked in his car and drove away. So no, there wouldn't be any problems. Is this the story I told you?
No. This is a new story for me.
We were there for a month, so some shit happened, you know. But it was really weird because I was like, man, that, you know, was it really that bad? Did we do something really that bad? And so there was a party in this club across town that we were invited to. So we went to the party, and everybody went inside, and I was outside with Igor. I think we were like drinking a beer or something before we went in, and this car pulls up with like this little Golf, Volkswagen Golf with like 6 guys in it. And it's like, it looked like a bunch of guys looking for trouble, big guys. And they get out of the car, and Igor goes, I'm going to go talk to them. And he walks up, and they're talking. The guy pulls up his shirt, and he's got a gun in his pants and puts it back down again. And then they gets back in the car, and they turn around, and they drive away. And I go, what was that? And he's like, fuck, man, they're looking for your singer, Mike.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? And he goes, they were looking for Mike the chicken, like, to see if he can talk like that to us, to our face.
Oh.
And I was like, fuck. So anyway, that's my story.
They didn't find him.
No. But that really made me realize, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe it's good to be smart sometimes.
No, but there was always like this precipice, you know, this turning point where, you know, the younghood meets the adulthood. And,
that's exactly that.
You know,
absolutely.
And then all of a sudden this stream of consciousness breaks through, and you start realizing that your actions have consequences and have echoes later in life.
For sure.
You know, and then you kind of have to put on, you know, a handbrake and stop and start thinking about things. You know,
we were very lucky. We learned that lesson without having too much pain.
Yeah,
very lucky.
It's usually how it goes with men.
It's true. We all do.
We all do, and just hoping for the best. You know, not going for the overkill. You know, that's never good, man. That's never good. You know, there's consequences afterwards. So yeah, we've been talking a lot, and the main reason you hear is actually the film.
Yeah.
I've already spoke with Nataša, you know, Nataša, as you would say, you know, about the film, and the whole film is an amazing experience, and it's an amazing journey. And one thing that makes the film so great, that kind of fills in, you know, the experience of it and elevates it, is the sound. I mean, the music, if you can call it music in a way, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I found out that music was made by you and this guy called Jared.
That's right. That's right.
And you two actually have a band.
We have a band called The Talking Book. Yeah, we've been doing this since like 2013. We have 2 records you can hear. It's all close to what the soundtrack that you heard. It's very ambient. It's a little disturbing, but it's very visual music. Not like Faith No More in any way.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah. And can you tell us about this music? Because as far as I have heard, I don't know if she explained it very well. You kind of create analog electronic music, whatever that means. And that you kind of sample some analog sounds in a way to create, you know, an ambient music.
Yeah, the Talking Book actually is the name of a record player that they made for blind people because you could put the braille on and I think you could touch it. And it played very slowly, so you could get a lot of material on a disc. So, usually it's 78, 45, 33.
Yeah.
This went down to like 9 RPMs. And you can find it on eBay. You can find these old turntables that go really slow. Jared totally discovered this, where he got one of these turntables and he started sampling old records at a really slow speed. And it's not the same as slowing down digitally. It's a different, it just sounds different. And it's very warm and it has all this vinyl feeling. And he really started doing it, constructing layers and instruments out of these sounds from these slowed down vinyl. And I knew him from the neighborhood, and I helped him technically with some of his sound projects, because he didn't come from the engineering side, he just came from this experimental side. And I was like, bring it to my house, let's listen to it, see if we can fix some things to make it sound better. And we did this for a few years where we're like, let's do something together and see what would happen. And so the talking book is kind of when I bring what I know and my experience and my approach to music with his approach.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what you get.
And those sounds, I'm guessing when you're sampling those sounds in such a slow RPMs, especially on a vinyl, that you're picking up some, I don't know, some hums and noises. And,
all of these things. You want these things.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it feels like when I was watching, I haven't heard about the project before. The first time I heard about the project was when I watched the film. And the documentary film, and it feels like it's a sound. It has this synesthesia element in it that it kind of gives you the texture. It's like a fabric of sound. I don't know.
Absolutely that. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's a weird sensation.
It's more like fabric. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's a weird sensation, and it goes so well with the moving pictures, right? With film. I don't know how I would feel about it if I just heard the music. Haven't tried it really with like good headset, but when I saw it on a film, it fits so perfectly, like how you hand in glove or whatever the saying is.
It's the first time we ever did this music to an image, to a film. But what we called it before is like film music to films that don't exist.
Okay.
And the way we work, it's kind of like sculpture. It's like, for me, it was a big adjustment to think like this because I'm a band guy. I write music, and I structure bass, guitar, keyboards. I mean, I always listened to experimental music, but I never worked in this kind of abstract way. So for him, and I learned a lot from him. He's amazing at doing that. And so we would say, like, how do you know when it's finished? Because it's like working with clay, right? It's always moving. And when it feels like it's finished. When we started, and with this music, when we started seeing things, when you start seeing scenes with the sound, we're there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just start getting this, everything just starts to fit. And so the first record, it came pretty quickly, and we were pretty happy with it. And the second one took about 5 or 6 years before we felt like it was finished. It was agonizing. It was painful. But it wasn't right. It wasn't that thing. And then we finally got there, thank fucking God. And I'm happy with what we got. But then the film came, and it was a reverse approach. Like, here's the pictures. Give us some sounds to go with the pictures. And it was, for Jared, it was very easy. He's like, it's like his element, he's like a fish in the water. He's just like, he can just speak. For me, I'd never done it before, and I had a little bit of agonizing, like this, that, and it took me for a while just to shut my mind off and just go full intuition.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised how hard it was for me to do that, but I did it, I think, and I'm happy that I did it. Natasha's happy with what we gave her. It's her vision, right? It's her story. So if she's happy and it fits with her, then we did it.
Yeah, but this thing that you've mentioned, we're just straying away from the conversation, but I think everything is conversation.
Yeah.
So this full intuition that you found that it's hard to achieve, actually, those kind of experiences actually tells us a lot more about us than just the project that we're working on. Uh-huh. All of a sudden you're finding the borders within yourself.
Absolutely.
That you need to break free out of.
That's right.
And you emerge out of those experiences as a kind of a changed person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
That's right.
And this journey for me is an amazing experience, and this is exactly the reason why I love music. You know, whenever I'm talking to people who don't really understand what music is all about, I'm saying the music changes the world every day.
Yeah.
In every moment.
Yeah.
I have concerts that I've been to that I walked away from as a changed person.
Right.
You know, that
Sure.
actually happens to me. That actually happens to, you know, large groups of people after one single concert. I had records that I've listened to that changed me once I've listened to them. You know, and those experimental things, you know, they kind of, you know, they test your limits in a way. And this is this uncomfortable feeling that you get that you gonna kind of either walk away from or find a way to make them comfortable for you. And once they become comfortable, that's the sign, the signal to move to the next thing.
So with our thing, if I can think of a way to put it, I'm a kind of ADHD kind of person.
Yeah.
So doing aggressive music sometimes comes too easy for me. But there's a lot of experimental music I like, and there's also experimental music that I'm just gonna be like, yeah, it sounds good, but next.
Yeah.
Just boom. I don't have the time. Good for you. You got something out of this, you know, but I don't have time. I'm a busy guy, and fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I can be that way.
Yeah, but for example, because I was a fan of Faith No More, right?
Yeah.
You know, as we all were at the time. Still are.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about at the time. So once you're a kid, before the internet, you know, became the internet that we know today, finding new music was a difficult thing.
Yeah, sure.
And for example, you have some money in your pocket. You go out to the, you know, place where you music store.
Yeah.
And you're gonna buy an album.
Big risk.
Big risk.
Yeah.
So you have these two options.
Yeah.
One is like new album from the band you love.
Yeah.
And new album from the band you never heard of.
Right.
What you're gonna buy.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you're gonna go for the things that you know.
That's right.
Yeah, and this narrows your ability to find about new music.
For sure.
But there's this thing in between where it's like, this is the new album of the band you like,
right.
But there's this new album of the band you never heard of, but this band is consisted of some of the members of the band you like.
Right.
So it's a side project of that.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe I'll go for this one. And this is those are the risky buys, you know, that you do.
Right.
But you discover.
But you trust them.
Yeah, you trust them.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, you build the trust with this band and you go for it. You and Mike, you know, you all have like bunch of different projects that you're involved to.
And they're very different.
And they're very different.
Yeah.
And this is what you did, you know, for a bunch of us, you know, you opened the gateway to discover new music. For example, with Mike, this thing that gives me, first time I heard it, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I put it, I stopped it, and it took like, I don't know, 6-7 years before I matured enough in a music sense for me to discover it again. And all of a sudden it made sense. For example, for me, that was a Dillinger escape plan. When I first heard the ironies of that scene, that was a different sound for me.
2001?
Or 99? Or
99 maybe, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So, you know, it was, and when I first heard it, when I first played it, this cacophony of this hysterical, you know, over the top, insane sound, that was like, I didn't understand it, man. It was just noise for me at the time. I stopped it, and it took me, I don't know, mid-2000s, 2007.
Interesting.
Yeah. When I heard it again, when I had like a bunch of build-up experiences, and it made a lot of sense.
It's very interesting.
You know?
It's very interesting.
And this is what you provide, you know, with the project that you do for people like us, like me.
Well, you know, things come generational hand-downs. I mean, what did this for me, that gave me your experience, was punk. You know, 1978, 79, when I first heard it, all the music sounded very different. But I trusted all the people making it. So I could take a look at this weird thing and I could accept it. Even though I didn't know what it was going to sound like, I trusted that it was coming from a good place. And I just took it. And so my record collection was very varied, actually. Like, I could have reggae albums. I could have, punk. I could have... And what was punk? Punk was all kinds of things. Post-punk was a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Even that, like... You were talking about stage diving earlier. I stage dived to the Go-Go's once. But my point is that is, I took that and I applied that to what I did with my art. Like, this variety made my life better, and why would I want my own product not to have that? And I'm luckily I met the right guys that feel the same way as me.
Yeah, but where do you find time for time for all of this stuff? For the film project, for this music project, for the music production in a way, for working with this band, to do with your own band?
See, I feel like I don't do anything. I feel really lazy. I feel like I spend too much time sitting around bullshitting, actually. Like, I could do more. That's how I feel. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I feel like I could be doing more.
Okay, yeah, that's, I don't know. I mean, that's an impressive thing in so many different ways. Because, for example, when you were coming to this interview, I was like, this is my peak performance, man. I had this moment like you had in Sarajevo, taking the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember when I met you, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a big thing for me. I was a kid in a way, and I was all about music, without talent to actually create music, but I was doing all sorts of things in order to be around music, organizing concerts, working with bands, writing about music, working in music television, you're working in radio stations, working with record labels. I was actually doing everything but creating music, because I have zero talent to do it. Mm-hmm. But I have some kind of bullshit detector in my mind, so I can listen to the music, but I cannot really create music.
Right. And
all of my life dynamic emerged from this, I don't know, this misery of not being able to be a musician.
Really?
Yeah. Everything else.
You have a secret frustration.
Yeah. Everything else is a compensation for me.
Yeah.
Compensating for the lack of talent.
Right.
And I kind of find the comfort in it.
Yeah.
And meeting people like you was a big thing for me, especially at that time. And now 13 years later, here we are sitting here. I've made something out of myself, and you're sitting here, we're having the conversation. It's an important thing, and cool. I want to thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Cheers.
Thank you for
Cheers.
everything you've created so far, and thank you for this fucking rakia, man. And I think I think I'm getting drunk, because this sounds like a drunk talk, right?
When he starts crying, stop the interview.
I think it's about time it's about time to stop this interview, man.
Cool.
Yeah, we can continue off cameras, right? Awesome.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It actually feels really good to be coming here and talking about experiences that I never shared with anybody. Thank you, man. So it's cool. It's a pleasure of mine, and it's an honor, and I'll cherish it forever. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.